Alright, number 1 Jiggin Pig versus number 16 Vampire Spinnerbait. Of course, the Jiggin Pig is a legendary lunker producer. Black and blue, you can't go wrong with that. And then you have an obscure spinnerbait known as the Vampire that was actually endorsed by Hank Parker, famous professional fisherman, who actually met me one time. But in this case, there's no miracle for the Vampire. It's going to go by the wayside. Black and blue, Jiggin Pig wins again. Alright, got number 8, a Shad Rap Jerkbait versus a Dropshot. Both are kind of sleek, slim, stealthy, don't do a whole lot, sit in front and tantalize the bass, enticing them to bite. In this case, I'm going with the Dropshot. For these jerkbaits, especially in the cold water, you got to let them sit for minutes at a time sometimes. I just can't sit still that long. Dropshot's the winner. Alright, number 5 Whopper Plopper versus number 12 Moss Boss. A couple of topwater lures doing battle here. The kind of different presentations. We got an open water, more so with the Whopper Plopper, makes quite a commotion buzzing across the surface of the water. And as far as the Moss Boss, it comes across the top of the moss mats. Makes a little bit of a commotion, but nothing quite like the Whopper Plopper. In this case, I got to go with the Whopper Plopper. Those big nasty treble hooks sink into those bass. Whereas the Moss Boss sometimes just gets blown up and it's tough to get them on that one hook. I also got to say that Whopper Plopper reminds me of perhaps a Shack or a Big Country Reeves from back in the day. A great big lure that does the trick. Number 4 Shad Rap versus number 13 Smooth. Shad Rap, classic cold water bait. You can't go wrong with this one. Typically start off my years with this. In fact, it's caught my only bass of the year so far. And speaking of catching a bass, I caught a bass on the Smooth once back in 1988. This caterpillar looking big-lipped bug-eyed plug just never caught on. It looks kind of funky, but bass didn't seem to like it. Shad Rap all the way. Alright, number 6 Topwater Frogs versus number 11 Ned Rig. This doesn't hardly even look fair with the menacing frogs posing to strike at that Ned Rig. However, I'm going to go with the Ned Rig on the victory this time. Frogs can be fun, very explosive on top, but you miss a lot of strikes. Ned Rig slowly crawled along the bottom. It will produce when nothing else will. Go Ned Rig. Now this one's kind of fun. Number 3, a KVD square bill crankbait versus a spinnerbait called a Tornado. Now this is a matchup not only of lures but of endorsers. The fellow who endorsed the square bill crankbait is a guy by the name of Kevin Van Dam, perhaps the greatest tournament bass fisherman of all time. As opposed to the Tornado was endorsed by a fellow named Eugene Shoestring Dubois, a backyard Louisiana lure maker who found himself in the Bass Pro Shops catalog promoting this bait that he'd created out in his garage somewhere. But sorry, Shoestring, I'm going to have to go with KVD. Square bill wins this one going away. Alright, number 7 Bomber, long A jerkbait versus a man's auger tail worm. I really liked this jerkbait for a while. It just tore him up at the strip mines with what I called a frantic retrieve. I would just have that thing yanking it as rapidly as I could back to the bank, and for maybe 2 years the bass really ate it up, and then it just gave out on me. As far as the man's auger tail worm, there's something to be said about the worm that you learn to fish the Texas rig with, and I remember a spot called Les Vickery's Pond, not too far from some of the strip mine ground that I still fish to these days. But that was the first place I caught anything on a Texas rig worm, and this was the worm that did it. So by virtue of that fact, the man's auger tail is going to move on to the next round. Alright, next up, number 2, Booya Buzzbait versus number 15 Flies. Both of these make a commotion on the surface, but I tell you what, there's nothing like the commotion of that buzzbait. It is about the loudest, most obnoxious bait coming across the top of the water, and the strikes are just explosive and can produce some big bass. Therefore, I end up throwing that thing till my arms get tired, even when I shouldn't be throwing it. And I am not a fly guy, so Buzzbait takes the win.